Yes, guys, hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to the Game Week 16 deadline live stream. My name is Callum, aka FPL Nacho. Thank you so much for waiting around. I do apologise for being late to this live stream. As always, I'm going to be answering all of your questions for the next 45-50 minutes or so. No, it isn't a 10 a.m. UK time deadline. I just always run it up an hour before the deadline, and then your opportunity to then go off, check out all the other great content creators. But I'm hoping this is the place to be if you want all of your questions answered. So get yourselves in the chat. Let me know if you are watching. It'd be awesome to see who's involved. I already see some people are in the chat, and I will obviously get to those questions. So thank you once again for getting involved. And if you're looking forward to today's live stream, please do drop a like. It always helps and shows me that you're actually enjoying the stream, because sometimes I do question, is this a load of rubbish or not? So it does show me it's actually offering some value. I've done a transfer as well, so I will cover off my team in this live stream. But the important thing here is getting all of your last minute questions answered. So hopefully this is the place to do that. So first up, Mortretnik, hope we're doing well. Cheekster, hope we're doing well, my friend. F1 and Feeder Series, yo, first, hope we're doing well, mate. Madrid fan, as ever, mate, hope we're doing well. Dawn says, should I do Colwell or Shimikas in for Cash or Guy and Son in for Mbeumo? Okay, so first up, we haven't got any news regarding Son. We know that he went off with a bit of discomfort in their game in game week 15. So I wouldn't be necessarily rushing to buy Son, because I think he could either be a risk of rotation or come off early due to that injury that he is carrying. So I wouldn't be really buying Son right now, unless you can kind of accept he might be a bit of a rotation risk this week, but you're buying him for the long term. Colwell is probably the only Chelsea defender outside of Reece James I would consider, but Chelsea are all over the place right now, and I really don't anticipate a clean sheet against Everton, so I'm not huge on that. Shimikas I do like. I think he is the number one left back. Again, we could see rotation, but the fact that he didn't play in game week 15 suggests to me he will start in game week 16, so I actually think Colwell long term is the better pick, but Shimikas for more of an upside is probably the route to go for, so it depends what kind of pick you want to go for, basically. Anton saying, Mbeumo to Gordon or Palmer? I have Son, Saka. Okay, so you're in a position right now, like a lot of FPL managers, where you're debating what route to go for. I think Newcastle are more of a consistent team week in, week out. I know they had a poor performance against Everton, but I think you know what you're getting with Newcastle most times. Chelsea, honestly, can either be one of the best teams in the league or one of the worst. They are one of the biggest yo-yo clubs in the league right now. I think the only thing that's ever present in that Chelsea team is the performances of Cole Palmer and being on penalties. I think Mudryk comes out the team before him. I think Gallagher also has his place in the team. I think from a creativity perspective, they need Cole Palmer. So if I was to pick one, just because he's cheaper and on penalties and the fixtures long-term are brilliant, I probably would just go for Cole Palmer. And also, Newcastle have that really big home game against AC Milan in the Champions League. So we think Newcastle are going to have to really, obviously, play their best 11 in that game. Could that hinder them this weekend? I think it could possibly so. I'm going to say Cole Palmer just. But Gordon is a brilliant transfer in for a lot of FPL managers. James, does anyone know if you get another triple captain after game week 18 or something like that? James, it's a really good question. It's something we haven't really spoken about a lot, because not many managers are using their chips so far this season. And naturally, the reason being is because we try and hold off using our FPL chips until later on in the year due to the amount of blank and double game weeks historically we have had. Now, we get 2 wildcards in the season. We get the first one, which you can use all the way up until, I believe, game week 19, but please do correct me in the comments if I am wrong on that. And then you'll get a second wildcard in the second half of the season. However, triple captain, bench boost, and of course your free hit, you only get one of those throughout the season. So once you've used it, that is it done. So you do need to be a little bit cautious and maybe be a bit more thoughtful about when you do use those chips, because once you've used it, they are gone. JP, hi mate, start Palmer or Solanke? That's a really tough one, because my answer to that would probably be I'll try and start both of those. Now, you put a secondary question saying start 3 of Maguire, Pinnock, Lascelles, Gabriel or Shimikas. Well, I think realistically, you probably are going to have to play Shimikas in this game, because he didn't start in the last game week. So I would anticipate a start for Shimikas. Now, looking at the other fixtures, I think Pinnock naturally on paper looks like a good pick against Sheffield United, but with all the injuries Brentford have, I would be a little bit cautious about Brentford defensively this year. Lascelles, I don't really like away against Spurs, and he's also a little bit of an injury risk. So I probably would, out of that lot, play Maguire, Pinnock and Shimikas, just because I rate the Aston Villa attack. But you're going to see in a minute, I'm actually doubling down on the Arsenal defence this weekend, not out of choice, just because I'm forced to do it. So I probably would just go for that. If I had to pick between Palmer and Solanke, because I've advised you to start Maguire, I probably would then say start Cole Palmer. But honestly, Solanke's numbers have been fantastic, and Bournemouth have been one of the form teams in the league. I wouldn't really be comfortable benching either one of those players this weekend. And Coolboy saying, help please, I have Lascelles, Guy and Areola in my team. Do I get Porro or someone else? Okay, so if you are desperately in need of an FPL transfer, I think Guy to Pedro Porro makes a lot of sense for managers. It's a transfer that I really want to make this week, but I can't really justify doing it for a -4. So I think I would firstly look to sell Guy, because long term I don't think he's an FPL option, whereas at least Lascelles is only 4 million, so you can keep that spot as a bit of a dead rubber if Botman does return eventually. I think Guy is a player that is just not going to be needed for your team, so I think Guy to Pedro Porro is a brilliant move, and I prefer Pedro Porro long term over Reece James. Again, guys, please do put your questions in the chat. I'm just going to be here to answer all of your questions and obviously reveal my team and how it is looking, which I will come on to in a minute. And interestingly as well, I want to know what you guys are doing if for your captaincy this week. So I'm just going to put in here, who is your game week 16 captain? Please do let me know in this poll. It'd be really interesting. So I think naturally a lot of people are either going to go Erling Haaland or Mo Salah due to the fixtures, but I would be really interested to know outside of that if there are any options. So I'm just going to put Haaland, Salah, and I'm just going to put other. And if you are going for another option, please do comment too. And it'd be really sick to see who the alternatives are, because I don't really see any outside of Erling Haaland and and Salah. Now I'm just going to make sure I've actually made people aware that this live stream's going ahead while you guys vote in that poll. So that'd be great if you can. Thank you on that one. And again, if you haven't liked the stream, it takes 2 seconds. It'd be awesome if you can, just to show that you are enjoying it. Also, I haven't opened it up to everybody, so I am going to put it as a anybody can comment on this. You don't have to be a subscriber, so please do. If you're watching this, you're not completely sold on the channel, but you want your question answered, it's perfectly fine. Get yourself in the chat, and I will try and answer your question as soon as I possibly can. Diaby for Gordon or Palmer? Again, I personally am just going to lean towards Cole Palmer right now. Slightly cheaper on penalties. The fixtures are really good. I think Gordon is a brilliant option, but my only concern about people going to Gordon is if it's your third Newcastle asset, just be aware you are blocking yourself from getting Trippier if it's a player that you deem to be essential for your FPL teams. And is it Kieran? I do apologise, saying opinions on Isak, Haaland and Watkins. Okay, so all three are great. Isak gives you that brilliant fixture in game week 18 away against Luton, which, to be fair, probably sounds better than what it is with the way Luton are playing recently. So those three are a brilliant three to own long term. My only concern about Isak is the return of Callum Wilson eventually. I think Isak is going to be needed for that home game against AC Milan. If we do see a situation where Callum Wilson is available for game week 17, we might see Isak play Sunday, Wednesday, and then benched on the following weekend. So I will be a little bit cautious about buying Isak right now. No news on Lascelles. What I will do is I will put my Twitter stream up here. I won't put it on screen. I'll just put it for my viewing, just to see if anything does crop up. Because, of course, the early kickoff is going to be the game week. Sorry, it is going to be the Liverpool game. Sorry, my mind was all gone there. So we might get some news about Darwin and Shimicast potentially, which could help a lot of FPL managers. But again, if you are looking for that news, I would advise also staying active on Twitter just to see if we do get anything available for us. But one thing we have seen, I don't know whether they are legit, is they've said Quansah is playing for Liverpool today. And that is a centre-back. So I'm assuming that's going to be Van Dijk and Quansah at the back. I probably have butchered that name. So anyone that has watched me a lot knows that I do have a history of butchering names. That's it right now for news. Right, let's get back to the questions. What am I playing at? Should I do Colwell or Pedro Porro in for cash? Pedro Porro is by far and away the better option to Colwell. I would just get that done because long term he is fantastic. Got Turner and Areola. Should I do a -4 to Sanchez or Dubravka? So for this weekend, I don't think it's looking good regarding an Areola start with a wrist injury. But hey, you could just start him and hope for the best, but you are at risk. Do I like it for a -4? No, unless you are buying a goalkeeper that you know you want long term. So of the two, Sanchez or Dubravka? I think probably Dubravka plays for a better defence, but Sanchez has the better fixtures. I probably would just lean towards Sanchez and hope that he is actually your man. But again, depends on your team structure. If you need a little bit of cash in the bank, maybe go down to Dubravka knowing that he is good for the next month or so, knowing that you can invest the funds elsewhere. So it depends on the rest of your team. And before I get into my team, Zach is saying best Mbeumo replacement. I've covered this off in my previous video, so I would advise checking them out if you want a bit of a more in-depth conversation regarding it, because I don't really want to touch on that in this stream just because it's time sensitive. But the way I'd look at it is this: if you can afford Jarrod Bowen and it doesn't hinder the rest of your team, I think Jarrod Bowen is the most obvious replacement because he's the talisman and he's going to play every single minute for West Ham. The only thing that I will say is, and it's similar to myself, I could have done Mbeumo to Bowen, for example. However, I'm a Darwin Núñez owner, and investing those funds from Mbeumo to Bowen means that it will affect me getting Watkins in game week 18. So you need to make sure if you upgrade Mbeumo, is that going to have effect on the rest of your team later down the line? If you can do it though, absolutely do it. Now, in terms of downgrades, a lot of names have been spoken. Cole Palmer, we have Gordon, we have Hwang, obviously of Wolves, and we have some other differentials like a Garnacho. For me, Mbeumo's a player in your team who was going to be a guaranteed 90-minute man on penalties. So it's going to really change your team structure if you were to downgrade Mbeumo to a rotational risk midfield. So you need to remember, you're selling a player that was guaranteed player in your team for a rotation risk in Garnacho. So I wouldn't be downgrading that to Garnacho. The move that I really do like is Cole Palmer because it makes a lot of sense. Guaranteed game time, great long-term fixtures. Hwang, I love. He's more of the goal scorer of all of the options, but he is on 4 yellow cards, 1 away from a suspension. So do be cautious if you do make the Hwang move. So I would rank those as Cole Palmer number 1, Gordon 2, and Hwang number 3. Now, please do keep putting your questions in the comments. And again, as always, if you can, drop a like on the stream. It's massively appreciated. I know a few people are probably here to see what moves I made. I did reveal them in my previous video, but for those that didn't check it out, this will be beneficial. And I have confirmed the move. I done it last night. So here's how the team is looking. Let me get it up. So I had my Twitter stream up there. So I had Big Man Bakar's face on the screen for you. Here we go. Here is how the team is looking. So this is the team. And I'm going to say I'm 99% locked in on that one. It's a little bit weird because, as you can see, I'm starting Areola in goal. And obviously that doesn't look right for a lot of FPL managers. But the reason being is this. Areola either starts for West Ham or he doesn't get a single minute because obviously he is currently struggling with wrist injury. So it doesn't really matter if you start Areola. If you prefer him over Dubravka, start him because Dubravka will auto sub in for Areola. So that's the current way that I'm thinking right now. I'm just going to play Areola and hope for the best. To be honest with you, I think West Ham and Newcastle concede this weekend. So I just think it's the lesser of the evils right now. In terms of my back three, Livramento, Saliba and Gabriel, honestly, is not good. Like, my defence is looking absolutely atrocious this weekend. I don't think Livramento keeps a clean sheet. I don't think Arsenal necessarily keep a clean sheet. However, if any team in the league was going to go to Villa Park and keep a clean sheet, I think it would be Arsenal. I'm hoping that this is just one game too many for Aston Villa after a really, really competitive game against Man City. I'm just hoping Arsenal rock up, make it really, really tight and just difficult for Aston Villa to hit them in the spaces that they did against Man City. I think Aston Villa dominated Man City in the midfield areas. I'm not expecting the same thing with Arsenal. I think Declan Rice has the ability to counteract that kind of what we saw from McGinn, that real combative performance. I think the Man City players really struggle with him from a aggressive perspective. I think Declan Rice kind of nullifies that. Odegaard's control in the team, I think, is really important. And there's going to be about that third midfielder. But I think Arsenal have the tools available to counteract that of Aston Villa. I may be completely wrong, but I think in 1v1 defensive phases, Saliba versus Watkins is a much better matchup than what Ruben Diaz or any of the other Man City defenders would do so. Might be a bit controversial, but I think Saliba's 1v1 is one of the best in the league. So I'm going for the double Arsenal defence, not because I want to, because it is kind of necessary. Now, I could make, for example, a -4 and basically go sideways from Saliba to Pedro Porro. But for a -4 this week, it just doesn't really make sense for my FPL teams. Am I expecting Newcastle to score? Yes. So straight away, I'm completely reliant on a Pedro Porro masterclass in terms of attacking potential. And I just don't really want to go there. So I'm going to back the Arsenal double defence and pray that they put in a real title contenders performance, and they lay a marker down for Man City saying, you didn't get the job done, we're going to get the job done at Villa Park. Looking at my midfield, you will see I have made a transfer. I have sold Mbeumo for Anthony Gordon. Now, in terms of my team, it made complete sense. Now, your teams are going to be different, so obviously take this with a pinch of salt. The reason why I done Anthony Gordon, I wanted Mbeumo so much, but because I only had 1 million in the bank, if I made that move, I have earmarked, or whatever you call it, Darwin Núñez to Watkins in game week 18. But if I made the move to Jarrod Bowen, I wouldn't have been able to make that move. Now, in the short term, I think Bowen probably would have repaid me in that sense. But the issue is, then, how am I getting the funds available to make the move that I want for Watkins, who has that brilliant home fixture at Sheffield United in blank game week 18? So Gordon reluctantly come in. It wasn't a transfer that I really felt I wanted to make, but it made sense. Game week 17, I will then look to potentially do Mark Guy to Pedro Porro and get myself the Spurs defender. Also, I might do Saliba to Pedro Porro, one of those two moves. And then in game week 18, it will be Darwin Núñez to Watkins. So long term, I think I have my moves in place, but we know FPL throws a lot of curveballs. But this is how the team's looking. Am I expecting a green arrow? No. But looking at the fixtures this weekend, I don't really think there are many games that I want to own certain players in. Now, for example, this is the man. This, honestly, is the guy that is going to be the difference between a red or a green arrow. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people out there. If he can finally deliver this weekend, it is going to be an absolute scenes. It's going to be absolute scenes in FPL. So I'm expecting Darwin Núñez to either get me a 0-pointer or a 15-pointer. It's that sort of player this weekend, and it's going to be the difference between a red or green arrow. Now, in terms of the rest of my team and for captaincy, Haaland makes complete sense. I just think he is the man to go for this weekend. I think Mo Salah is brilliant away against Crystal Palace, but I'm just going to lean towards a Man City reaction and beat Luton comfortably. So look, let's get back into the questions. Obviously, if I have missed any, I'm going to get back on them now, and I'll come back to my team in a bit. Again, if you can, drop a like on the stream. It would be massively, massively appreciated. But let's get back to it. Is Shumakas starting? We haven't got the news right now, unfortunately. But if we do get any, I will let you know. Chad saying, morning, righto boss. I'm returning Haaland to my team. I have enough in the bank and I plan on saving 2 free transfers after this to replace anyone having a blank game week. Núñez, Alvarez, Watkins, which one to remove? We definitely don't remove Watkins because he is a man that you're going to want in game week 18 when they blank. So you absolutely want Watkins. I think the obvious move for you is going to be doing Núñez to Haaland. My only worry for you is that Núñez plays in game week 18, and if you were to do Núñez to Haaland, you're then going to have 2 Man City players that are blank in game week 18, which is going to hinder your team. So even though it doesn't feel right, I think Alvarez to Haaland makes sense because you're just selling one player who blanks in game week 18 for another. But obviously, for the next 2 games, I think it's a really nice differential to go for double Man City attack. So it depends how your team is shaping for blank game week 18. Sakan saying, selling Mbeumo to Bernardo Silva. Need cash for Watkins in game week 18. Have good enough bench for the blank game week. Already own Palmer. Okay, so Bernardo Silva historically hasn't really been an FPL option. What I will say to you is he does have them purple patches where he just gets goals. And we know his game time is pretty secure in this Man City team. And sometimes when they play against these teams, sometimes the Bernardo Silvas do step up and really get those double-digit hauls. Am I anticipating it? No, and it probably wouldn't be top of my agenda. But if you want a real differential, I don't mind Bernardo Silva because he is going to play the majority of game time over this period. I'm just going to make myself a little bit bigger there because I look awful on that screen. Hi, I already have Areola, Lascelles and Guy. Okay, I've covered that one off, I think, already. Should I switch for Colwell or Pedro Porro? If it's going to be a -4, you have to do it for Pedro Porro because he's the only one that offers the actual value to go there. What do you think of Bailey after Arsenal? I think Bailey after Arsenal is a question in itself that we need to address after Arsenal because Bailey, if he plays 70 minutes and has a little bit of a stinker, he could easily come out of the team. I think he's one of those players, when he's hot, he is hot. But them sort of players do get me a little bit worried in FPL because they could easily come out of the team as quick as they've come into the team. He's that sort of player. So I like him. I like him as a punt. But if you're going to do it, I think you do it now while he is hot. That's the way I look at it. Reece James or Pedro Porro. I'm going to say Pedro Porro. Reece James, I just don't think is fully fit. And also, over this period, I think they are still going to manage him a little bit. So when they can bench him, for example, the Sheffield United game in game week 18? No, sorry, in game week 17, could we potentially see a benching for him at some point? I'm just worried about Reece James and Chelsea as a whole, to be honest with you. I think Pedro Porro, you're getting guaranteed game time. His numbers are fantastic, and Spurs long-term have good fixtures. Jay's asking, should you start Anderson or Matty Cash? And you have kind of highlighted there, both are awful picks. I don't think Matty Cash starts. I think Matty Cash isn't getting back into this team anytime soon. His one route into the team was obviously in that right wing position. But what we saw from Aston Villa was actually Tielemans coming into the team, playing as almost the second forward, number 10, and then Leon Bailey going off the right. There's no way Leon Bailey gets displaced in this team. And to be honest with you, I think there's more chance of maybe seeing Diaby come in as a second forward alongside Watkins than seeing Cash come in at right wing. And to be honest with you, if anyone watched that game against Man City, Ezri Konsa was unbelievable. I'll be astonished if they do replace Ezri Konsa for someone like a Matty Cash, who I think defensively is a little bit of a worry. And going 1v1 against someone like a Gabriel Martinelli, you want your best defender, and that is going to be Ezri Konsa. So I think I would definitely start Anderson in that situation. But like you said on it, are we expecting anything from them? Absolutely not. No news on Areola, but the last thing we do know is that he was carrying a wrist injury. I'm just going to start him, as I mentioned, because I think both Newcastle and West Ham concede this weekend. So I'm just going to start Areola, hope for the best. There's no way he comes on as a sub. So if he doesn't play, Dubravka comes and auto subs into the team. Does Son need to go? Jacob, to be honest with you, I thought about this question. I think the situation is, so many of us have other issues that we need to address. And the problem with selling Son is that, first and foremost, they literally need him to play. That's good and bad. I think if he has a 60% chance of playing, they're just going to play him. But is he ever going to be fully fit over this festive period? I'm going to say no. So it's one of those where I would almost not care if Son gets benched against Newcastle and doesn't come on, because then I look at the fixtures and think, well, I'm going to get a fully fit Son over this period here, which I want. If they play him against Newcastle, another 90 minutes, he's clearly not himself and he's just kind of like limping around. I'm going to look at the Nottingham Forest game on the Friday and think, wow, he's not going to be fit for that. And then he's not going to be fit for Everton and not fit for Brighton. And all of a sudden he's going off to the Asia Cup and suddenly he looks like a terrible option. I think we just let game week 16 roll, accept what will be with Son, unless you are wildcarding. Then I can maybe justify selling him, knowing you could change your team up if you needed to at a drop of a hat. Bowen is my choice of captaincy. I don't mind it, Gary. I honestly think if you want to go against Salah and Haaland, you absolutely can do so. I just think this week is kind of screaming out for a flip of a coin between Haaland and Salah. And to be honest with you, I don't really have the answer to who is the better option. I think both are great. We've had a few weeks like this where you kind of flip a coin and hope that the FPL gods are in your favour. I'm just going to go for Erling Haaland. A bit of a narrative I've probably convinced in my head, but I think Man City dominate phases of play against Luton. I think they have the players to combat against the aerial threat that Luton offer. And I also just think that Luton put in such a great performance against Arsenal, but 3 games in a week for Luton to put it up at that level, I just don't know if they have it in their locker. And we need to address, I know Man City have been a little bit poor over the weeks, but they're still triple winning Man City against a Luton team who are doing great things at home. But I just think this is one game too many for Luton. But again, I might be completely wrong because the results speak for themselves, what the games they have had at the Luton ground. And again, guys, if you are watching right now and you are enjoying the stream, please do consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button. Trying to drop a lot of content over this festive period. Hopefully you are enjoying it. See, we've had a lot of new subscribers over this period, so it's sick to see new people on board. Aiming for 12k subscribers before the end of January. It's an outrageous goal, but it'd be really cool if we can hit it. And if you want to get involved in the journey, it'd be awesome to have you. For those that have come in new, just a heads up, I've done my free transfer last night before the Embremo price drop, and I sold Embremo for Anthony Gordon. It just made a load of sense for my team. And what I want to quickly show you is, for those that don't know, the Fantasy Football Fix Chrome extension is a joke. It's unbelievable. You basically just download it free and it incorporates into the actual official FPL site. So for those that don't know about it, it's like the best around. And you can do a planner. So for those that use kind of external sites, the one that I would use if you are using external sites is fpl.team, the best around. But if you're not using that and you want to incorporate it into the official site, this is what I would recommend. FPL Plus, it's called on Google Chrome. So this is how my team is looking right now for game week 16 for a little bit of context. I've made my transfer. I'm not going to take a -4. I have decided, even though my team looks atrocious this weekend. So we'll come into game week 17. I will obviously play Dubravka at home against Fulham. I'll play Livramento at home against Fulham. Obviously, we have got the midweek game against AC Milan, so we might see some fatigue, but I'm happy to play the double. The only issue with this is I wanted to do Mark Guy to Pedro Porro, but if I do make that move, I will then look at my team and think, who do I really want to be benching out of this lot? And it probably would end up meaning I would have to bench one of my Arsenal defenders. And then I start to ask myself, should I just sacrifice one of my Arsenal defenders? So in this week, even though I probably do fancy Arsenal to keep a double clean sheet against Brighton, I would look to potentially sacrifice Saliba to make room for Pedro Porro. My team would then look like this for game week 17, which I'll be more than content with. I think I would just go for Darwin Núñez and hope that Liverpool just absolutely steamroll Man United, because I'm still not convinced by them, for those that do think they are suddenly Barcelona. Then we're coming to game week 18, which of course is a blank game week. The team actually looks quite good, although obviously Erling Haaland doesn't feature in this week. And this is where I would look to make my Ollie Watkins transfer, and I would sacrifice Darwin Núñez to bring in Ollie Watkins for that brilliant game that they have against Sheffield United, which is just fantastic. And all of a sudden my team will start to look like this, which is okay on paper. I would like to have Reece James, but I actually don't think they keep a clean sheet away against Wolves. So I think the team looks pretty good, and I could even bring in Mark Guy at home against Brighton, but I would probably rather start Charlie Taylor than Mark Guy because they are so poor. And again, game week 18 is all about just getting by unless you are free hitting. Now, do I have enough Newcastle? Well, I've tripled up, so I'm hoping they do keep a clean sheet against Luton. But that is the plan right now for my team. Just for those that are maybe thinking, Nacho, what are your plans over the foreseeable future? Probably no one has asked that, but it is what it is on that. Right, I need to get back into the chat because I see I have missed quite a bit. So let's get back into it. So I'm going to speed through some of these right now. Start Shimicast. This is from Thomas Tracy saying, start Shimicast, Gabriel, Maguire, Walker or Gordon. Start 4. So if you have Walker, I think you have to start him away against Luton. So I'd probably start Carl Walker. I would start Shimicast. I would start Gordon versus Maguire. Then I probably would go for Anthony Gordon in that situation. Should I move away from Matty Cash? Absolutely. I think if you can go for Matty Cash to Pedro Porro, I absolutely would do so. Start 2, He-Chan versus Nottingham Forest, Watkins versus Arsenal, or Palmer versus Everton. So I think if you own He-Chan, you have to start him because he's one of the most bought players going into the weekend, and you'll just kick yourself if you don't start him in one of the best fixtures right now with that Nottingham Forest defence. But I have to start 2 in this situation, which is a little bit of a problem. So realistically, I think because of the ownership of Watkins, you will kick yourself if you do not start him at home against Arsenal. So I'm going to have to say reluctantly bench Cole Palmer, but I don't love it. It is worth noting. Reece James or Pedro Porro, bench Son, play Solanke. I think if you have Son, you just have to start him and hope for the best. You'd really kick yourself if you bench him and he does eventually start, because we know him as a centre forward is still one of the best assets in the game. I don't want Son and have Morgan Gibbs-White. Should I buy Bowen, Foden and Sterling? That's going to come down to your risk tolerance. I think the obvious one is Jarrod Bowen. You have to remember Sterling is 1 yellow card away from suspension, so he could be a bit of a risk over this period. So realistically, if you want to go high upside chasing, you go Phil Foden, but do know that they blank in game week 18. Otherwise, the obvious one is Jarrod Bowen in this situation. Trippier or Zinchenko to start? It's always going to be Trippier, the answer there, 100%. And if I was buying, the answer still would be Trippier. Keep or trade out Darwin? If so, any suggestions? Look, if you were one of those that brought him in a couple of weeks back like myself, the plan was always to hold him for 3 game weeks. No, this isn't hindsight. You can go check out my previous videos. I said, I'm doing Ollie Watkins for Darwin Núñez, and I'm going to judge him after Fulham at home, Sheffield United away, and Palace away. So what I'm saying is this: I'm not sitting here saying that Darwin Núñez is going to get a double-digit haul. However, if you're one of those managers like myself that said you were going to keep him for a minimum 3 game weeks, if Ollie Watkins does blank against Arsenal and gets another 1 or 2 pointer, and of course this is all ifs and buts, and suddenly Darwin Núñez does rack up a double-digit haul, all of a sudden the transfer doesn't look as bad as what a lot of managers do suggest. Now, of course, that is going to require a miracle from Darwin Núñez, but you need to ask yourself, if you brought in Darwin Núñez, how long did you plan on buying him? I wouldn't be kind of like getting cold feet and moving away from him if you did decide to hold him for 3 game weeks. Just accept it and keep him for this week, because I don't think it's a bad fixture. Palace conceded 2 at home against Bournemouth, and of course Darwin Núñez was benched against Sheffield United, and I don't think that was because Darwin Núñez is out of favour. I just think that was to manage minutes. So I think this is a good thing for Darwin Núñez owners, and you just got to keep him, I think, in my eyes, and look to sell him to Ollie Watkins in game week 17 or game week 18. What defender to buy under 6 million? I have Pedro Porro already, thinking about Reece James. Look, if you are going under 6 million, I think the answer probably is Reece James, but know that you are buying a player that historically is an FPL troll. Now, what I mean by that is that he is just one of those that gets injured all the time and also plays for a team that are struggling to keep clean sheets. But in terms of FPL value, attacking potential wise, he is right up there as one of the best. Ronald's saying, is taking a -4 in Bowen to Bowen worth it this week? Okay, so whenever people ask these questions, I think we need to come back to what is your definition of success. So do I think Mbeumo to Bowen for a -4 this week is going to pay itself off in game week 16 in isolation? No, I don't. However, if you're one of those that say to yourself, I am bringing in Bowen for 6 game weeks, then yes, I do, because I think the -4 will pay itself off over that 6 game week period. But if you're looking at it thinking, do I get my returns in this game week in isolation? My answer is probably going to be no in that. Hi there, should you do -4 Martinelli out to Bowen or Foden? Martinelli's been a very frustrating player, but would I be selling him for a -4? No, I wouldn't. Start Pedro Porro for Watkins or Shimikas or Gabriel or Maguire or... Okay, so if you own Pedro Porro, you absolutely start him. He's one of the few players in this game who has that real high upside. I would put him alongside Trippier and Trent Alexander-Arnold, and probably Reece James if he does actually start playing for Chelsea rather than getting red carded or injured. So you just absolutely start Pedro Porro. And in terms of who you start him ahead of, well, you start him ahead of Gabriel every day of the week. Deacon saying, do we know who is going to AFCON? Okay, so in terms of players that are going to AFCON, in terms of popular assets, straight away you can look at my team and you can see that we're going to have Son and Mo Salah go for AFCON and the Asia Cup, because they are obviously happening this year. So those are 2 important players that will be absent from the game. We also have players like Kudos. We also have, to be honest with you, off the top of my head, I can't remember. What we can do is check out Twitter and see, because I'm sure that somebody has done a fantastic tweet and a thread about the players that are going to be absent during the AFCON. So all you need to know is that Salah, Son, Kudos are 3 players that are very, very important that are going to be absent. People like Onana as well. I believe that he is back with his international team. I think he did have a falling out, but I think he has made up terms, so he should be back there as well. Saka or Bowen? Saka will empty my bank. Ooh, I think if you can get to Saka... Okay, so my answer is this. I think Saka is the answer, because I do think that long-term he is just an unbelievable hold. But what I will say to you is, buying Saka, does that hinder other moves that you need to make? So, for example, does buying Saka then mean that you can't do a Darwin Núñez to Watkins move in game week 18? If that is the answer, then I think Bowen definitely is a case to buy rather than Saka. Charlie, hope you're doing well, mate. Start Son or Solanke. Okay, that's a really tricky one, because you're basically looking at a guaranteed starter in Solanke versus a rotation risk in Son, only because, of course, he went down injured in the previous game week. So I think that I still would start Son reluctantly, just because I'll be worried if he does start, he could go off this weekend. Caspian's saying, what a great name. What defender to buy under 6 million? I have Pedro. Okay, I've covered that one off. Yes, I think Reece James is the route to go for, but know that he is a very, very frustrating player to own. I've covered that one off. Madrid fan, hope you're doing well, mate. How many money do you have in the bank currently, mate? Yes, so for those that are wondering about my team, I currently have 1.9 million in the bank, which I'm really happy about, because it gives me a lot of different directions to go in. So, for example, if next week I looked at it and thought, oof, for some reason, Callum Wilson, because Alexander Isak gets injured, becomes absolutely imperative to have, I could move away from Livramento to a Reece James, and then I could look to sideways move a Darwin Núñez, Callum Wilson, for example. Having this money in the bank gives me a lot of flexibility, but of course my starting 11 or 15 looks a little bit weaker because I haven't got all my money invested in the team. So it does have its pros and cons. Obviously I am going for a cheap goalkeeper rotation, which is helping right now. I just want to make sure I have checked Twitter recently just to see if any news has come out. Again, if you are new here and you want to click that subscribe button, my recommendation is this. We have such a busy festive period. Maybe stay a subscriber for December, check out the content, and then if you think to yourself, you know what, this bloke doesn't know what he's talking about, then you can unsubscribe. That's always my advice, is give me a chance for the next few weeks, because if you are going to get involved, December is the time to do so, because we have so many game week deadlines that you're going to want to get involved with the content. And then after that, in the new year, if you think to yourself, you know what, this bloke is rubbish, I'm more than happy to say that you can click unsubscribe. But it'd be awesome to have you as a subscriber this year, guys. So please do consider, if you haven't already. As they say, give me a chance. Darwin or Watkins. Look, Armin, if you're looking to buy right now, the answer is Watkins, 100%. Benico is saying, I do a -4 to switch Turner or Areola for someone else? Okay, so if you're in a position where you have no starting goalkeeper, you're probably not going to have a starting goalkeeper this week if you have Turner and Areola. I think Areola is a bit of a risk this weekend, but could Areola be back the following game week? Probably. I do like the idea of maybe doing a Turner to Dubravka, because I think long-term that is a goalkeeper that you're going to want in your FPL teams. Daniel saying, bench Palmer, Gordon or Willian. Brought Willian in before Wolves getting rid in game week 19. So to remind ourselves, Fulham this weekend have a home fixture against West Ham. Sorry, I need a drink of water. I haven't drunk at all. So Willian is actually a really good differential, and I probably would look to start Willian at home against a West Ham team who defensively are still struggling for clean sheets. But the problem is, Cole Palmer and Gordon are two of the most bought players going into this weekend. So you do know that if you don't start them and they do well, it's going to really hurt you from an overall rank perspective. To give you a bit of an idea, looking at the transfers in, you can see here, Palmer the most bought, then Chan, and then Gordon. So I think Willian is a fantastic differential. But of course, if you're playing the game of ownership, my worry will be if you do bench either of those, because just know that most people are going to start both Palmer and Gordon. Your Willian pick really does have to deliver, because if it doesn't, and both of these score, it's going to really hurt your overall rank. So from a kind of safe perspective, I'm probably going to say to you bench Willian, just because I would be fearful if they do well, it's going to really hurt you in this game week. But I know that's quite a boring move. Is Kulusevski a good differential? I'm probably going to say no. I just haven't seen enough right now from Kulusevski to suggest he is worth buying. Covered that one off. I don't want to duplicate any questions, so I am going to skim by ones that I have. Daniel saying I rank 208k. That's a great rank right now. Currently, should I play it safe and captain Haaland? I don't think playing it safe is the Haaland move. I think the thing about it is Haaland the best option? I think he is, yes. So just go for him. Like, I don't think it's playing it safe. The way I look at captaincy is, who is the best captain? And if that's deemed safe, then so be it. I think, like, you shouldn't really be trying to be like, oh, everyone's going Haaland, so I should probably go different. Like, if Haaland is the best pick, does he have the best fixture? If you think he's the best pick, just go with it. Like, just accept that sometimes a player is the best pick and it is what it is. And other managers might do it, but there's a reason why they are some of the best picks. I do apologise, guys. As I said, this stream was going to be 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. because I obviously do my TikTok live, which I am committed, I have to do, unfortunately, 10 till 11. So I am going to have to wrap up this stream in a minute. So I do apologise if I haven't answered all of your questions. It is really frustrating that I can't do it. I'm going to try and like skim read some that I haven't answered. But again, I really do apologise if I haven't answered your questions. Start Diaby or Charlie Taylor. I mean, Charlie Taylor isn't going to keep a clean sheet against Brighton, but I think Diaby is probably a massive rotation risk. So I think both probably get 1 or 2 pointers. So maybe just go for Charlie Taylor and hope that he maybe gets an assist in that game, maybe. Can I know other than Palmer and Gordon, because I already got them short on budget for Foden, who should I replace Mbeumo with? So I think Hwang is a really good option, but remember, he's one yellow card away from suspension. Otherwise, I think someone like a Leon Bailey is a consideration. But again, I do think, as I've discussed with Leon Bailey, he's one of those classic players that when he's hot, but when he's cold, he could get taken out of the team. Whereas, for example, somebody like a Salah, a Saka, a Son, it doesn't matter if they play crap for 3 weeks. They're going to stay in that team and play week in, week out. My problem is Leon Bailey. If he has 1 or 2 bad games, he's coming out that Aston Villa team for Diaby. So I think you have to strike while the iron's hot with someone like a Leon Bailey and just get him in this week, knowing that he's on form. Willian, a great differential if you want to go there. Dan saying, love the content, man. One of the best. One of your favorite FPL content pages, your information and decision making is very straight to the point. Thanks so much, Dan. I really do appreciate the love there, mate. McTominay or Semenyo for 5th midfield. I'll tell you what. Hang on. Semenyo, yeah. I was about to say he is a forward. I was just questioning that then. So Semenyo's a forward, so that probably is going to change your question there, mate, on that one. But I prefer Semenyo if you are looking for a 5th attacker rather than a 5th midfielder. Guys, I really do apologise. I am going to have to wrap up this stream. I love doing these, but I obviously have a commitment to do the TikTok lives 10 till 11, so I'm never going to be that channel that goes right up until the deadline. What I will say is this. Once again, thank you so much for tuning into this live stream, because it means the world that you guys actually choose to come on this one, where there are so many other great content creators out there. My advice is this. I'm going to have to wrap it up here, but please do, first and foremost, if you're on TikTok and you want to get involved, come onto TikTok on the live. I'll be on there for the next hour, but go check out some other amazing content creators. There's so many great ones out there, provide so much great information. But what I will say is this before you do dip off. If you're one of those FPL managers who doesn't get their questions answered in some of the really big content creators, just know this is a place where I try and answer every single question, and I do try my best to answer them. So if you want to subscribe and come drop it on the next live stream, I will make sure I do answer your questions next time. So please do consider dropping that subscribe button. It'd be awesome to have you involved in this Christmas period. And as I said, if you don't find it interesting in the new year, 1st of January, click that unsubscribe button. But give me the chance over December to provide as much value as I possibly can over this period. So we're going to wrap it up here, guys. I really do apologize. I am going to have to cancel. I'm going to have to cut off the stream now because I need to jump on TikTok. Thank you so much once again, guys. I will confirm that my transfer was in Mbeumo to Gordon. Team's looking awful this week. I'm probably expecting a red arrow unless Darwin Núñez delivers. Darwin Núñez is basically the difference between a red and a green arrow. Natural Quick, Baldock or Taylor to start. Baldock. But I don't know if he's actually fit, but I would go Baldock on that one and hope that Sheffield United put in a Goliath performance. Right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you in the next one. Make sure you do subscribe to keep up to date. Thank you so much. Take care, guys. Have a great game week. Cheers.